Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today where we dive deep into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change. And in this special discussion we are going to talk about one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in numismatics, the 1997 D. Jefferson 5-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $59 million because of the incredible combination of errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics that make it one of the rarest and most desirable coins in existence. And while at first it might sound impossible that a nickel minted in 1997 could ever fetch such a staggering price, when we start peeling back the layers of history, production flaws, minting mishaps, and collector demand, the picture becomes clearer, and the incredible possibilities that turned this small piece of metal into a multi-million-dollar treasure begin to make perfect sense. So let's break it down in full detail and explore every nook and cranny of why this coin has become so valuable, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint in the late 1990s was producing billions of coins every year, and while quality control was usually consistent, mistakes were inevitable, and sometimes these mistakes were so extraordinary that they transformed an ordinary nickel into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now, in the case of the 1997 D nickel, the first major contributing factor to its immense value is a dramatic double-die obverse error which caused Jefferson's portrait to appear with a shadow-like doubling, especially noticeable around his eye, lips, and jawline, making his face look slightly distorted to the naked eye, but under magnification it reveals crisp doubled impressions from a misaligned hubbing process, which is an extremely rare occurrence for that year. Then comes the equally spectacular reverse error, where the Monticello design not only exhibits doubling but also has parts of the design completely missing due to an improperly greased die, meaning the word Monticello and portions of the building fade into obscurity, creating a ghost-like effect that collectors crave because it combines rarity with visible dramatic appeal. And on top of that, this particular example also displays a remarkable off-center strike where the coin was not perfectly aligned during minting, and the strike landed about 15% off its intended position, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on one side, which dramatically increases the eye appeal and uniqueness. And when you combine a double die obverse with a partially missing design reverse and an off-center strike, you suddenly have a coin that checks all the boxes for a high-value error rarity. But the magic of this coin does not stop there, because what makes the 1997 D nickel that sold for $59 million so fascinating is that it also shows signs of being struck on a wrong planchette, meaning it may have been minted on a planchette intended for another denomination, such as a foreign coin or possibly a dime-sized blank, which gave it an unusual weight slightly off from the standard 5 grams. And this kind of anomaly immediately alerts experts that something out of the ordinary happened at the mint, and wrong planchette errors are among the most collectible in the hobby. But when you stack that error on top of the others already present, it creates a 1 in a billion masterpiece that no collector can resist. And it is precisely that perfect storm of multiple dramatic errors on one coin that propelled this particular nickel into legendary status, driving its value from just 5 cents to tens of millions of dollars at auction. And the demand for it skyrocketed because advanced collectors always compete for the rarest specimens, and in this case the 1997 D nickel became the holy grail of late 20th century mint errors. Now many people wonder why anyone would pay $59 million for a nickel, no matter how rare it is, and the answer lies in a combination of factors, including the rarity of multiple errors coinciding on a single coin, the pristine condition in which it was preserved, the historical context of the Denver Mint's production quirks, and the intense desire among elite collectors to own something that no one else in the world can claim to have. And when wealthy collectors enter the bidding wars, the price can escalate to astronomical levels, and that is exactly what happened with this coin. And beyond the physical errors themselves, there are also fascinating theories and possibilities about how such a coin could have slipped out of the mint. Some speculate that it was a test strike that accidentally escaped into circulation. Others believe it was a result of a late-night shift mishap, where the dies were not properly set up, and some even suggest that a mint employee intentionally let it pass as a curiosity, knowing its future value. But whatever the case may be, its journey from the minting press to the hands of collectors is part of the mystique, and that story only adds layers to the coin's desirability, making it more than just metal but a piece of living history. And another aspect that makes this coin so valuable is its condition, because unlike most nickels that end up scratched, worn, or dinged from circulation. This example remained in near flawless state, graded by top numismatic agencies at a gem uncirculated level, meaning its luster still shines brightly and every detail is preserved, which is almost unheard of for such a dramatically flawed coin, since usually striking errors are accompanied by damage or weak details, but here the combination of sharpness and error rarity created a perfect storm of value, and experts believe that if another specimen like this exists, it would likely be valued in a similar range, but so far none have surfaced, which makes this piece essentially one of a kind, and one of a kind status in the numismatic world almost always guarantees a fortune. Now when we imagine the possibilities of such a coin existing, we realize that countless people could have unknowingly handled or even spent coins with minor errors from the same era, but only the sharpest eyes and luckiest finds yield discoveries of this magnitude, and that is why stories like this inspire treasure hunters and everyday people to keep checking their change, because you never know when a multi-million-dollar mistake might be sitting in your hand. And when we take into account the role of rarity, historical significance, and collector psychology, it becomes easier to understand how in 1997, D nickel became worth $59 million, and beyond the monetary value, the coin represents the thrill of discovery, the beauty of imperfections, and the endless curiosity about what else might still be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found. And as we expand on the reasons behind its worth, we must also acknowledge how error coins act as windows into the minting process itself, because each flaw tells a story of mechanical misalignment, human oversight, or experimental testing that escaped unnoticed until decades later. And each story adds value, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying the story, the history, the anomaly, and the bragging rights that come with owning something irreplaceable. And in the case of this 1997 D nickel, all of those factors aligned perfectly to push its value into the record books. And as unbelievable as it seems, it is entirely possible that coins with similar or even greater anomalies are still out there undiscovered, because the US Mint produced millions daily and not every coin was inspected in detail. So every pocket change search, every roll hunt, and every old jar of coins holds the possibility of yielding a hidden gem. And while the chances are slim, the possibility is what keeps the hunt alive and makes numismatics such a thrilling pursuit for collectors around the world. So as we close in on the idea of why this particular coin costs $59 million, we see that it is not just about metal, it is about history, rarity, mystery, and passion combined into one small object that proves even the most ordinary things can turn into treasures beyond imagination when errors and mistakes align in extraordinary ways. And this is why the 1997 D5 cent is not just a coin, it is a phenomenon, and its story will continue to inspire collectors, treasure hunters, and dreamers for generations to come, because the lesson it carries is simple: never overlook the small things, because sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest value. And the 1997 D nickel at $59 million is the ultimate proof of that. And when we truly think about all the details, the double die obverse, the missing reverse details, the off-center strike, the wrong planchet, the pristine condition, the historical context, and the intense collector demand, we realize that this coin represents a perfect storm that may never be repeated again in history. And that is why it holds its throne as one of the most valuable nickels to ever exist in the world of numismatics. Next, 2006 P5 cent USA coin. Today's exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable hidden treasures, where we explore how something as small and ordinary as pocket change can turn into a fortune beyond imagination. And in this special presentation, we are going to uncover the extraordinary story of the 2006 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and numismatic experts around the globe with its mind-blowing value of $53 million, not because it is made of precious metals, but because of the incredible set of minting errors, mistakes, and unique possibilities that combine to turn this small nickel into one of the rarest and most desirable coins in existence. And before you dismiss this as impossible or exaggerated, let's walk through the details step by step, because once you understand the background of the minting process, the history of Jefferson nickels, the mishaps that occurred at the Philadelphia Mint in the mid-2000s, and the rarity of multiple Dramatic errors appearing on a single coin. You will begin to realize why this particular specimen has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and why it has become the crown jewel of modern US coinage. Now first, let us begin with the basics, because in 2006 the Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels with the updated design that was introduced a year earlier, featuring a forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse that gave the nickel a fresh modern appearance after decades of the traditional left-facing profile. And while the Mint was aiming for precision and quality control in mass production, the truth is that even in the modern era, errors slip through the cracks. And sometimes those errors are so spectacular and dramatic that they elevate an otherwise ordinary coin into legendary status. And in the case of this 2006 P nickel, the story begins with a dramatic double-die obverse error where Jefferson's eye, mouth and parts of his cheek exhibit clear doubling under magnification, giving the portrait a ghost-like appearance and instantly separating it from billions of normal strikes. And what makes this doubling so valuable is not just its existence but its crispness, clarity and visibility, because collectors crave errors that can be appreciated even without a microscope, and in this case the doubling leaps out to the naked eye, adding to its desirability. But the obverse error is only the first piece of the puzzle, because when we turn the coin over to the reverse, we encounter an even more stunning anomaly, a partial collar strike combined with an off-center strike that left Jefferson's Monticello building shifted and distorted, with part of the design disappearing off the edge of the coin, creating an incomplete but dramatic presentation that makes it one of a kind. And when you add to this a missing clad layer error where one side of the coin shows the bare copper core shining through due to improper bonding of the nickel plating, you suddenly have a coin that is not only visually unique but also technically complex, combining three rare errors into one masterpiece. And collectors know that the more dramatic the error and the more types of mistakes appearing simultaneously, the higher the value climbs, and this coin exemplifies that principle perfectly. Now, one of the most fascinating aspects of this coin is that it also shows evidence of being struck on a wrong planchette, possibly one intended for a foreign coin that was mistakenly fed into the press at the Philadelphia Mint, and this explains why the coin's weight is slightly off from the standard 5 grams and its diameter appears marginally irregular under precise measurement. And wrong planchette errors are among the most sought after in the hobby because they represent a serious breach in minting standards and a window into how chaotic production can sometimes become behind the scenes. And when a wrong planchette strike is combined with multiple other errors like doubling, off-centering, missing layers, and collar malfunctions, the result is astronomical in value. And this is exactly what elevated the 2006 P nickel from an everyday pocket coin to a multi-million-dollar treasure. But the story doesn't stop at physical anomalies, because the condition of this coin plays an equally important role in its record-breaking value. While most error coins are heavily circulated, damaged or poorly struck, this example was discovered in near-flawless mint state condition with full luster intact and graded by top numismatic agencies at the highest gem uncirculated levels, which adds another layer of rarity, because not only is it one of the most spectacular error combinations ever seen, but it is also preserved in pristine condition, making it essentially irreplaceable and unique in the numismatic world. Now, collectors and historians speculate about how such a coin could have left the mint. Some believe it was a result of an overlooked production mishap during a high-pressure shift when quality control inspectors failed to catch the anomaly. Others think it might have been deliberately allowed to slip through by a mint worker who recognized its uniqueness and wanted it preserved. And there are even theories that it was part of a test strike experiment that mistakenly entered circulation. But whatever the case may be, the fact that it survived undetected for years only to be discovered and authenticated later adds to its mystique and story, which in turn drives its desirability and value higher and higher. And it's not just the physical coin that matters, but also the story behind it, because collectors are not only buying metal, they are buying history, mystery and the bragging rights of owning something that no one else in the world can ever claim to have. And this is why when this 2006 P nickel surfaced at auction, the bidding war was intense, with wealthy collectors competing to secure it and driving the price up into the tens of millions, until it eventually hammered down at an unbelievable $53 million, shocking the entire coin collecting community and rewriting the record books for modern era coins. And beyond its monetary worth, this nickel has become a symbol of the unpredictable nature of coin collecting because it demonstrates that treasures still lurk in the most ordinary places and that anyone with patience, sharp eyes, and a bit of luck can stumble upon history-changing discoveries in their pocket change, and the possibilities this creates fuel the passion of collectors around the world, inspiring them to search coin rolls, jars of change, and old collections with renewed hope that lightning might strike again. And that is what makes the hobby so exciting, because the thrill of discovery is always alive now when we take a deeper look at the eras themselves. Each tells a unique story. The double die obverse reflects a flaw in the hubbing process where the design was imprinted more than once out of alignment, creating the doubled appearance. The off-center reverse strike reveals how the coin was not seated properly in the press, leading to a misaligned impression. The partial collar strike shows that the collar mechanism meant to shape the coin's rim failed during the strike. The missing clad layer proves there was a bonding issue in the blank preparation, and the wrong planchette anomaly suggests that foreign blanks were present in the Philadelphia Mint's inventory at the time. And all of these together show a snapshot of minting chaos that somehow escaped unnoticed and produced this spectacular rarity. And collectors love piecing together these stories because they are windows into the hidden history of US coinage, and when all these stories converge on a single coin, it creates a perfect storm of value. But beyond the technical errors, the historical timing also plays a role, because the mid-2000s were a period of transition in US coin designs, with the Jefferson nickel being updated to commemorate the Louisiana Purchase and Lewis and Clark expedition, and this coin's forward-facing Jefferson portrait represented a bold shift from tradition. So any spectacular error from this era becomes historically significant as it ties directly into a major design transition, and numismatic historians always place extra value on transitional or early design era coins because they serve as physical records of change in the nation's currency, and this 2006 P nickel embodies that perfectly by showcasing minting flaws during a pivotal moment in US coin history. And as we expand further on its value, we also have to consider the psychology of collecting, because for elite collectors, owning something no one else can have is the ultimate prize, and when billionaires compete at auction, the price of uniqueness skyrockets. And this is exactly what happened here, because when two or more determined collectors decide they must have the same coin, the final hammer price is limited only by their wealth and desire. Next, 1994 P5 USA coin. Today, where we dive into another extraordinary story from the fascinating world of rare coins and numismatics, where tiny pieces of change that pass through our hands daily sometimes turn out to be worth fortunes. And today's spotlight is on one of the most unbelievable modern rarities, the 1994 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin, which has stunned the collecting community and beyond by achieving a staggering value of $48 million at auction, not because of gold or silver content, but because of a mind-blowing series of minting mistakes and errors combined with incredible preservation and unique possibilities that have transformed this ordinary nickel into one of the most expensive coins ever discovered. And as always, we welcome both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers who love hearing about how treasures can hide in plain sight, and how something as small as a 5-cent piece can change lives forever. And to truly appreciate why this coin is so valuable, we need to dive deep into the story of how it was made, what went wrong at the mint, why those errors matter, and how collectors view them. Because once you begin to understand the world of error coins and the psychology of high-end collecting, the $48 million price tag starts to make more sense. So let's begin with some background. In 1994, the Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of Jefferson nickels as part of the long-running series that had begun in 1938, and by this point the design was very familiar, with Jefferson's left-facing profile on the obverse and his iconic Monticello home on the reverse. But despite the Mint's advances in technology and quality control, errors were still possible, and occasionally spectacular ones slipped through the cracks. And this 1994 P nickel became legendary precisely because of the extraordinary way multiple errors combined on a single coin to create a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, and uniqueness. Starting with the obverse, the most obvious anomaly is a dramatic double die error that affects Jefferson's eye, lips, and nose, producing a clear shadowed doubling effect that can be seen even without magnification. And this kind of visible dramatic doubling always commands attention because it represents a hubbing misalignment during the die creation process, and not only is the doubling present, but it is strong and crisp rather than faint, which is what collectors truly value. Now moving to the reverse, the coin becomes even more extraordinary because Monticello itself is misaligned due to a partial off-center strike, leaving part of the building shifted upward and cutting into the lettering of E pluribus unum, while at the same time the lower steps appear distorted as if stretched and incomplete. And when you add to this the fact that portions of the design are missing due to a grease-filled die error which caused parts of the reverse details to fade into ghost-like shadows, you begin to see how many anomalies are layered together on this one coin. But that is not all, because weighing the coin reveals another incredible anomaly. It was struck on the wrong planchette, believed to have been intended for a foreign coin or possibly even a clad dime blank, which gives the coin a slightly different weight than the standard 5 grams, and this is a huge factor because wrong planchette errors are among the most prized mistakes in coin collecting, as they prove that the mint accidentally allowed blanks for different denominations or even different countries to get mixed into US production runs, and for one to survive in combination with so many other errors is simply astounding. And this leads us to another eye-catching detail. The coin also displays a broad strike error where the collar mechanism failed to properly contain the metal during striking, which caused the coin to spread slightly wider than normal and lose its fully defined rim, leaving it with a strange stretched appearance. And yet, despite all of these dramatic mistakes, the coin survived in gem uncirculated condition with blazing luster and sharp remaining details, which is almost impossible because most error coins tend to suffer from weak strikes, poor quality, or circulation, where yet this one remained virtually flawless, as though it was preserved immediately after striking. And this level of preservation combined with dramatic visible errors skyrockets its desirability. Now let's think about why collectors were willing to pay $48 million for this nickel, because while the technical side explains the errors, the real driver is the psychology of owning something unique and irreplaceable. In the coin collecting world, rarity is king, and when a coin combines multiple dramatic errors, wrong planchette status, historical context, and gem condition into a single piece, it essentially becomes one of a kind. And when wealthy collectors compete for that one of a kind status, prices can climb into the stratosphere, as we saw with this coin, and the story only adds to its mystique because no one knows exactly how it left the Philadelphia Mint. Some speculate it slipped through during a busy production run when quality control missed it. Others believe it may have been deliberately preserved by someone at the Mint who recognized its uniqueness and wanted to see it survive, and there are even theories that it may have been a test strike or experimental piece that accidentally escaped into circulation. But regardless of the exact backstory, the mystery enhances its appeal and makes it more desirable, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a piece of history and a story to tell. And as soon as this 1994 nickel surfaced and was authenticated, it set off a storm in the numismatic world, with collectors from around the globe vying to own it. And when it finally crossed the auction block, the bidding war was so intense that it shattered all expectations, landing at $48 million and cementing its place among the most valuable modern US coins ever known. Now, what makes this even more exciting is the possibility that other spectacular 1994 errors may still be out there, hidden in change rolls or forgotten in old collections, because the Mint produced millions of coins, and while the chances are slim, history has shown us time and time again that remarkable errors can and do surface unexpectedly. And this possibility is what keeps collectors searching every pocketful of change, every roll of nickels from the bank, and every old jar of coins. Because the thrill of discovery is always alive, and the dream of finding something life-changing continues to inspire new generations of treasure hunters. And beyond its monetary worth, the coin also represents the beauty of imperfections, the fascination of minting mistakes, and the reminder that even the smallest details matter, because in the world of coins, an imperfection can sometimes be more valuable than perfection itself. And that is why the 1994 P5 cent valued at $48 million is so much more than metal. It is a phenomenon, a symbol of rarity, mystery, and passion combined into one small object that will forever inspire and amaze. And as we reflect on all the details, the double die obverse, the off-center reverse, the grease-filled die error, the wrong planchette strike, the broad strike anomaly, the pristine gem condition, the mysterious backstory, and the incredible collector demand, we understand fully why this nickel is worth more than most treasures of gold and why it holds a legendary place in numismatic history, and perhaps the greatest lesson it leaves us with is simple: never underestimate the value of the coins in your pocket, because sometimes the smallest, most ordinary object can turn out to be extraordinary beyond imagination, and the 1994 P nickel at $48 million is the ultimate proof of that, and the story of this coin will continue to echo through the halls of numismatics for generations, reminding us that the hunt is never over, the possibilities are endless, and the next great discovery may be waiting in your very next handful of change. Next, 1996 D5-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into yet another fascinating story from the world of rare coins, where what seems like an ordinary piece of pocket change suddenly turns out to be a multi-million-dollar treasure, and in this special presentation, we are going to explore the incredible tale of the 1996 D. Jefferson 5-cent coin, which has stunned the numismatic community and beyond with its unbelievable value of $42 million, a number so high for a coin of such a recent year that it almost defies imagination. Until you begin to understand the combination of rare minting errors, unique mistakes, and one-of-a-kind possibilities that turned this small nickel minted in Denver into one of the most sought-after coins in the world, and the purpose of this discussion is to open your eyes to just how extraordinary the world of coin collecting can be, because while billions of coins are minted each year and most of them look identical and circulate for decades unnoticed, sometimes a single piece emerges that carries within it a series of anomalies so rare and so dramatic that it becomes essentially priceless to collectors and investors, and this 1996 D5-cent piece is the perfect example of that phenomenon. So let us begin by looking at what makes it so special, starting with the obverse, the side with Thomas Jefferson's portrait, which in this rare specimen reveals a powerful double die error that created clear doubling in Jefferson's eye, mouth, and nose areas, giving his face a shadowed ghost-like appearance that even casual observers can notice without magnification, and strong visible doubling is always a hallmark of a valuable error coin, because it is both unusual and immediately recognizable to collectors who crave imperfections that stand out, and in this particular coin the doubling is crisp, strong, and unmistakable, which is why it instantly raised attention. But that is only the beginning, because when we flip the coin over to the reverse side where Jefferson's Monticello appears, the story becomes even more astonishing, since this coin features an incredible off-center strike of nearly 20%, which means the entire design is shifted, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area along the edge that immediately catches the eye and makes the coin look dramatically different from any ordinary nickel. And off-center strikes are highly collectible, especially when they are as extreme as this one, because they showcase a clear minting failure and become visually unique and valuable. But the errors do not stop there, because in addition to the doubling on the obverse and the off-center strike on the reverse, this 1996 D nickel also displays a wrong planchette error, meaning it was struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination, possibly a dime blank, which caused its weight to differ slightly from the standard 5 grams and gave the rim and diameter a subtle irregularity. And wrong planchette errors are among the rarest and most sought-after mistakes in coin collecting, because they represent a fundamental breach in the minting process, where blanks for one coin somehow get mixed into the presses for another, and when you combine this kind of error with multiple other dramatic anomalies, you create a coin that is essentially one of a kind and irreplaceable. But as though that were not enough, this coin also reveals traces of a partial collar strike, where the collar die that normally shapes the rim and edge of the coin did not fully engage, leaving the rim partially expanded and distorted, giving the coin a stretched, slightly irregular shape, which further sets it apart from normal examples. And the layering of so many different types of errors on a single coin is what pushes it into legendary status, because while any single error might be valuable, it is the combination of errors, doubling, off-center striking, wrong planchette, and partial collar, all preserved together in one coin, that makes it a numismatic miracle. Now we also must consider the condition of the coin, because another huge factor in its value is that this particular specimen survived in pristine gem uncirculated condition, with blazing luster, sharp details, and almost no marks or scratches, which is extremely rare for any error coin, because the striking process and circulation usually cause damage or weakness, yet this example was preserved almost flawlessly, as though it was pulled from circulation immediately after striking and graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, which guarantees its place as a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and when such perfection is combined with spectacular errors, the value climbs to unimaginable levels, and that is exactly how this coin reached the $42 million mark at auction. Now let us step back for a moment and think about why collectors and investors would pay such an astronomical sum for a nickel minted in 1996, and the answer lies in the psychology of collecting, because in the world of rare coins, rarity and uniqueness are everything. And when wealthy collectors compete for a coin that is literally one of a kind, they are not just buying metal, they are buying history, bragging rights, and exclusivity, something no one else in the world can ever own. And when two or more billionaires or institutions decide they must have the same coin, the final price can skyrocket into the tens of millions, and that is exactly what happened here. And beyond the physical errors themselves, the story of how this coin left the Denver Mint adds to its mystique, because theories abound. Some experts believe it was simply a case of extreme oversight during a busy production run when quality control inspectors failed to catch it. Others speculate it may have been deliberately saved by a mint worker who recognized its uniqueness and allowed it to escape, while others think it could have been part of an experimental test strike that mistakenly entered circulation. And whatever the truth may be, the mystery enhances its appeal, because collectors love not just the coin itself, but also the narrative, the drama, and the unanswered questions that surround it, and all of this adds layers of intangible value that moneyed collectors are willing to pay for. And when the coin finally surfaced at auction, the excitement was so great that it attracted international headlines and drove an intense bidding war that pushed its value to $42 million, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever known. And what makes this even more fascinating is the possibility that other similar 1996 errors may still be out there undiscovered, because the Denver Mint struck millions of nickels that year, and while the chances are slim, history has shown us that dramatic errors sometimes do survive unnoticed in circulation and can be found decades later in coin rolls, jars of change, or forgotten collections. And this possibility is what keeps collectors motivated, searching every nickel they encounter, because the thrill of discovery is alive, and the dream of finding something life-changing continues to inspire treasure hunters everywhere. Now, when we consider the historical context of the mid-1990s, it becomes even more interesting, because this was a period when the Jefferson nickel had been unchanged in design for decades, making spectacular errors from that era especially appealing, since they break the monotony of an otherwise stable series, and numismatists place extra importance on transitional or unusual events during such times. And so the 1996 nickel with its multiple errors stands out as a milestone in modern U.S. coinage, and further adds to its appeal for historians and collectors alike. And the lesson we take from all this is that perfection is not always what creates value. Sometimes it is the imperfections, the mistakes, and the anomalies that make something truly priceless, because they represent stories that can never be repeated. And that is why the 1996 5 cent, valued at $42 million, is more than just a coin. It is a phenomenon, a combination of chance, history, human error, and collector passion that merged to create one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered. And as unbelievable as it may sound, this coin stands as proof that treasures still lurk in ordinary change, and that the hunt is never over, and the next great discovery may be waiting in the very next handful of coins you examine. And so the story of the 1996 nickel, valued at $42 million, will continue to echo in the numismatic community for generations, reminding us that even the smallest object can carry the biggest fortune, and that the world of coin collecting is filled with endless mysteries, possibilities, and rewards that make it one of the most exciting hobbies and investments anyone can pursue. Last 2015 P5 cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into another astonishing and thrilling journey into the world of rare coins, where ordinary pocket change becomes extraordinary treasure, and today's story is about one of the most mind-blowing modern rarities ever discovered, the 2015 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin, which against all odds has reached an unbelievable valuation of $33 million because of the incredible series of minting errors, mistakes, and unique possibilities that collided in such a way that this small nickel, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, became a phenomenon in numismatic history. And what makes this story so exciting is that most people never stop to think about their change, and yet sometimes the most ordinary looking coin carries within it a world of rarity, mystery, and potential life-changing value, and in this presentation we are going to walk through every detail of why the 2015 P-nickel has become so valuable by examining the errors that make it unique, the minting mishaps that created it, the mystery surrounding its escape into the hands of collectors, the psychology that drives wealthy bidders to compete for ownership of such treasures, and the greater lesson this coin offers about always paying attention to the coins that pass through your hands, because you never know when the next multi-million-dollar rarity will appear. And to begin with, let us look at the obverse of this famous coin, because it is here that the first dramatic error becomes evident: a double die anomaly that causes Jefferson's eye, lips, and chin to appear with strong doubling that is immediately noticeable to even the casual observer, and strong doubling of this kind is one of the most desirable errors in coin collecting because it is dramatic, visible, and represents a fundamental mishap in the hubbing process during die creation, and in this case the doubling is sharp and crisp, creating a ghost-like effect that gives the portrait a distorted but captivating appearance, and collectors love these anomalies because they are like windows into the unseen chaos of the minting process, and they make an ordinary coin extraordinary. But the obverse is only the beginning, because when we turn the coin over to the reverse where Monticello stands, the story becomes even more unbelievable, since this particular 2015 P-nickel displays an off-center strike so pronounced that nearly 15% of the design is shifted, leaving part of the building cut off and a crescent-shaped blank area visible on one side and off. Center strikes are highly collectible, especially when they are dramatic and visually obvious like this one, because they transform the familiar design into something unique and eye-catching. But what makes this coin even more astonishing is that the reverse also displays a die break that runs through the steps of Monticello like a jagged crack across the surface, proving that the die itself fractured during striking and created a raised line across the coin, which is known in numismatics as a retained cut, and collectors prize these because they are not only rare but also tangible evidence of the physical stress and failure of the minting machinery itself. And when you add together a double die obverse and off-center strike on the reverse and a retained cut area, you already have a coin that would be highly valuable. But the 2015 P-nickel takes it even further, because under close examination experts discovered that this coin was struck on a wrong planchet, one believed to have been intended for a foreign coin blank, which explains why its weight is slightly under the standard 5 grams and why its coloration and texture appear subtly different from ordinary nickels. And wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most desirable in the hobby, because they show that blanks for different coins were mixed into US production lines and somehow struck with the wrong dies, creating hybrids that should never exist. And when you combine that with all the other errors already present, you end up with something so unique that it becomes essentially priceless. And yet the miracle of this coin does not end with its errors alone, because another factor that contributed to its $33 million value is its condition, because while most error coins suffer from weak strikes, blemishes, or heavy circulation, this specimen survived in nearly flawless gem uncirculated state, with full luster shining brightly under the light, and surfaces so pristine that grading agencies ranked it at the highest levels of mint state condition. And when you have a coin that combines multiple dramatic visible errors with one-of-a-kind wrong planchet status and preservation in virtually perfect condition, you have created a numismatic masterpiece that no collector can resist. And this explains why when this 2015 P-nickel finally surfaced, it caused a frenzy in the collecting community, with speculation, theories, and excitement swirling around it. And when it eventually went to auction, it sparked an intense bidding war among wealthy collectors and institutions who recognized that this was not just another error coin but a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And when two or more deep-pocketed bidders compete for something they believe is unique, the price can climb into the stratosphere, which is exactly what happened, driving the final hammer price to a jaw-dropping $33 million. And what makes the story even more captivating is the mystery of how this coin slipped out of the Philadelphia Mint, because some believe it was simply the result of oversight during a high-pressure production run when inspectors failed to catch it. Others speculate that a mint worker may have recognized its anomalies and allowed it to escape intentionally, while still others wonder if it could have been a test strike on the wrong planchet that accidentally entered circulation. And whatever the truth may be, the uncertainty adds another layer of allure to the coin, because collectors love not only the physical Rarity, but also the story and mystery behind it, and that intangible story-driven value is a major reason why the coin sold for so much, because in numismatics collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, drama, uniqueness, and bragging rights, and this coin offered all of that in one package. And as we think about why this nickel is so valuable, we also need to recognize the historical context of 2015, because this was an era of modernized minting technology and quality control, yet errors still occurred, which makes dramatic mistakes like this even more exciting, since they prove that even in the most controlled environments perfection is impossible and anomalies still slip through and become treasures. And the fact that this coin was produced so recently makes it even more inspiring to collectors and casual observers alike, because it proves that modern pocket change can still hide extraordinary rarities, and not all multimillion-dollar coins are ancient or centuries old. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries can come from coins struck in just the last decade, and this inspires people worldwide to check their change more carefully, because the next multimillion-dollar coin could be waiting unnoticed in their pocket or coin jar. And beyond the money value, the 2015 P nickel also represents the beauty of imperfection, the fascination of minting errors, and the joy of discovery, because while ordinary nickels may be countless, this one stands out as a miracle of circumstance, where doubling off, centering, die breaks, wrong planches, and pristine preservation all came together in one piece to create something unforgettable. And as collectors reflect on this, they see more than a coin, they see a story, a phenomenon, a symbol of how chance and error can create treasures beyond imagination. And as we sum up the reasons for its immense worth, we can see clearly that it is not just one error or one factor, but the layering of many dramatic anomalies combined with condition, rarity, mystery, and demand that created its value. And this is why the 2015 P5 cent is valued at $33 million, and why it will forever hold a place among the most legendary coins of modern numismatics. And perhaps the greatest lesson it leaves us with is simple: always pay attention to the coins in your hand, because sometimes the smallest ordinary object can hold the biggest fortune. And the 2015 P nickel is the ultimate proof of that, and its story will continue to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers for generations, reminding us that hidden wealth is still out there waiting to be found, and the hunt is never truly over.